I don't really have a long intro here. This is really straightforward, so I'm just going to jump right into it. We're going to cover three main things in this very short video. We're going to talk about why you should consider outsourcing or offshoring work. We're going to talk about what you could outsource or offshore and some examples of how we do it, and how you can outsource and offshore the right way so you get optimal results. So let's jump into why you should consider outsourcing. But before I do, I get a lot of negative comments on a lot of videos and Facebook posts and stuff from people, and I don't get mad about them. I completely understand where people are coming from, but I feel the need to kind of not defend myself, but justify why we offshore work. And the first thing I hear a lot of is, number one, that cheap labor is poor work quality. And this is something that, I don't know, I think we Americans just think we're better than everybody else. But the fact of the matter is that I went to one of the top undergraduate schools, got a great degree, went back, got an MBA, master's in business, and I came out and I didn't know shit. Everything that I know, I learned on YouTube, Google, and on the job. Whereas my web developer, who's in Pakistan, has been laying code for the last 15 years. They're being brought up on that. Their education system is different. They're being taught these skills that in America, we're too busy teaching, I don't even know. I don't want to get political here, but the point is that the stigma is wrong. It's not that we are more educated and they're less educated and the quality of their work is less. It's the fact that they don't speak our language first, and you want to give somebody something, say, hey, go build a website and pay them $2 an hour. You're going to get a $2 website. You have to give them better direction, and you've got to get over this fact that they do crap work. It's really not the case. We're crap at giving them work. That's the problem. And I'm going to talk about that in depth in this little webinar here. So the other thing I hear a lot of is you should be hiring Americans, and this is plain and simple. My company wouldn't be here today if I didn't offshore the work in the beginning, because I can't afford to pay Americans when I'm first getting started. And if you're in the same position, you can't either. Americans are expensive. They want 50 grand a year because they went to college and they got some fancy receipt, but again, with no real job skills and no training, that you have to retrain them all. It just doesn't make financial sense. So the fact here is that I have 5 local people here in Miami, and they would not be here. Those jobs would not be here if it weren't for the people overseas. And I continue to hire more people locally because we're able to scale up our services much faster and much cheaper because of the work that we do overseas. So I'm going to talk about all that in depth. So why should you outsource or offshore? Ultimately, it comes down to scaling your time. Like I said, especially when you're getting started, your biggest asset is your time. You don't have money, but you have the ability to find things out, to figure things out, to go online, to do research, and to learn. You don't have that luxury as your business grows and you have money and you can pay people to do it. But when you don't have money, you need to figure out a way to scale your time. You can do that with software, but it's much easier to do that with people because they can just take your place if you train them the right way. So I'm going to talk to you about that pretty much throughout this whole thing. So before that, I need to discuss this little matrix here, which is the benefits and the drawbacks of the 4 different employment types. Number 1 is an employee or contractor. You obviously know about that. A freelancer is a specialist, one person in the task or the job that you need. The drawbacks are they're very high cost in the short term. The communication, freelancers are always busy. They're taking on too many projects because they're probably like you, where you don't know how to scale your time. They're just using their own time. So we tend to not use freelancers or outsourcing. Outsourcing is when you give an entire process to a company. They could be in America, they could be in London, they could be in Pakistan, wherever it may be. Outsourcing does not necessarily mean that you're pushing it to a location. It means that you're taking a process and getting it off your plate and giving it to another company. Again, the drawbacks here are higher cost, lack of communication. They're probably going to stick you with like an account manager or PM, and sometimes the quality of work, unfortunately. So what we do and what this presentation is about offshoring, right? And there's often a confusion between outsourcing and offshoring. Outsourcing is, a lot of people think that you're just pushing work offshore to some company that you don't know about. What we do is we hire people full time that are not in the United States because they're cheaper, and we train them. They come with skills. They know how to do analytics. They know how to do SEO. They know how to do, social media marketing. And what we do is we train them in our process, and then they become experts at our process, and they're basically serving the same position as American would on a different time zone, but for a much lower cost. So that's what I'm going to talk about, because if you can learn how to offshore, you can build and scale a business much, much, much faster. So I'm going to run you through a few things that we offshore here, and then I'm going to tell you exactly how we do them too. So when you're considering what to offshore, pretty much anything online can be outsourced or offshored, right? I mean, as long as you don't have to have somebody in the office physically to deal with inventory or deal with customers, maybe whatever that may be, social media, content creation, all that stuff can be pushed offshore very easily. So I always tell people, if you find yourself doing anything twice, a repeatable task start thinking about how you can get it off your plate. Because if you're doing something more than once, it means you're not thinking, you're just doing. And your job is really to think, make decisions, and have other people do for you. That's really what a business is. It's a big pyramid, and that's what you need to start thinking about. So importantly too, you need to understand your industry and what actions are required to acquire and manage customers, especially if you're doing this for a marketing purpose, right? So I give the example of if you're a personal trainer versus if you're a marketing agency like Weber's, right? So if you're a personal trainer, things like Instagram and Snapchat are huge. That would be very difficult to outsource or offshore because it's vital to acquiring customers, right? It's very difficult because you have to put your personality in there. You can offshore some of the things like maybe planning and strategic management, content calendar build out, but that's something that you might want to keep in-house. Whereas blogging isn't really important. You could potentially be able to process to offshore that. Whereas with us, at Weber's here, our blog is very important in our YouTube channel. It drives all of our customers. So we don't want to offshore that because it's too important. But Instagram and social media management, we don't really get customers there, but we still want to have a presence there. So we push that offshore and just automate it. And I'm going to talk about that more. So this works best for execution, not planning and strategy. So like I said, your job as the owner or the focal point of your business or the marketing manager is to be the decision maker. It's to be the puppet master, right? You want to be thinking and not doing. If you're spending too much time doing, then you're not making enough time to do the thinking, right? So all the doing stuff should be pushed offshore. All these repeatable processes should be built up and then pushed to somebody who can do it for a very, very, very low cost. So one of the things that we offshore is our entire social media is automated 100% by our offshore team. Content creation for our e-commerce website laces out these really, really cool resource guides is 100% offshored. From the research to the page building to the writing to the linking, everything is pushed offshore. PR, blogger outreach is all pushed offshore. Some of you guys know that already. Our technical SEO is actually being pushed offshore, and we do some really, really advanced technical audits. It's pushed offshore. This is a good example of mine. This is when I used to work for a very, very large advertising agency, biggest in the world actually, as a contractor. They hired me and they said, one of your jobs is going to be to build these reports for our clients, and you're pulling from like 18 different data sources. And I was like, man, F this. Like, I'm not about to sit here and spend 40 hours a week on top of what else you need me to do, just filling out this report. So I went on Upwork and I hired somebody for $2 who knew how to use analytics. I showed them how to build the report and they did it for me. So I was basically paying, $20 to get this report built, and I was getting about $4,000 in the time that I was billing the client for that. So very sneaky. I was not a very good employee, but the point is that it's this type of thinking that helps you get ahead and really helps you scale your time and make more money and more margin on it too. So now let's get into the bulk of this. Let's talk about how to offshore properly. So I mentioned this before, but to save money, you need to spend time. To save time, you need to spend money. So if you've got the luxury of having some money in the bank like we're at right now, because we went through this process, I can now pay Americans to do it because, or other consultants and higher paid people to do it because honestly, offshoring is a pain in the ass because it's a lot more work. But if you don't have the funds, if you don't have the resources, and you need the help, everybody needs the help, then you should really look offshore. So to get started with how to do this, you don't need to be an expert, okay? But you need to be able to clearly communicate what you're hiring for. Right. So I actually gave this presentation live just this past week, and somebody was like, well, I don't know how to do SEO, but I can't afford to pay someone. And I was like, well, you need to figure it out. I was like, what do you do all day? And he was like, oh, I'm really busy with this and that. And I was like, well, if this is important to you, if this is priority, you need to start putting in an hour or two a day to figure out SEO. You don't have to be an expert in it, but you need to clearly communicate exactly what it is. If you need keyword research done, you can't just be like, hey, guy, for $2 an hour, go find me keywords, because he's going to find you $2 an hour keywords. But if you give him a step-by-step checklist and process, which, yes, I know is a pain in the ass, but like I said, you don't have the money, you got to spend your time to build it out, because once that's done, you've then got a scalable and repeatable process that you can give to somebody and scale outwards. Again, that's if you're an agency. If you're just a business and you're not selling services at scale, maybe it's social media marketing, right? Like how to post properly to your Facebook, how to post properly to Instagram, how to format pictures, captions, all that stuff. Build it into a process. And if you don't know, figure it out, man. Google is a crazy tool that tells you anything that you want to know at any given time. Use it. So to do this right, you need to build out what you need. It takes work up front, but again, it saves time in the long run. So it's like an iceberg, right? I mean, you got to put in some of the work up front, but it's going to save you 90% of the time on the back end when you do this. It takes a lot of work to do the research and put together a process. It's a pain in the ass. But if you think about how long it takes you to post your Instagram account every day, every day. Every day. That's an hour, 2 hours of your time every day for the rest of your life, hypothetically, that you're spending, right? But if you just take 10 hours, one whole week to build that process of exactly what you need, you never have to touch it again. So you have to start thinking about mindset in terms of time up front, automation on the back end to do this the right way. And then finally, organization, communication, and process are the only way to make this work. Organization is key. Communication is key. For organization, we use Google Drive for everything, Google Sheets, because it's shared in real time. You don't have to pass Excel files. You build it in a sheet, you share access with them, and then you guys can work together in there. Communication, we use Skype. You can use Slack. You can use, I don't know, WhatsApp is really good too. Whatever it is that these people use, we use Skype because I like to be able to talk to them too on the phone, especially if we're interviewing for some sort of communication type job. And then process, finally. I'm going to talk a lot about process because it's what makes this thing go. It's what makes every business go, not just offshoring, but I'm going to talk a lot about that right now. A large majority of what you do can be boiled down to a step-by-step process. I know a lot of us like to think that we're very important and what we're doing is too important. SEO is too hard. You can't offshore it. Link building is too hard. Posting to my Instagram account, like you need to know this and you need to know that. Like, no, that's bullshit. You're making excuses. Anything that you do can be boiled down to a written step-by-step process. And anybody, including a chimpanzee, can follow a well-written process. Anybody. It doesn't matter if they're the United States, a free intern, they're the CEO of Forbes, or if they are living in Bangladesh. They can follow a process. They have an internet connection, right? So that's the most important part about all this is building a process. So before you hire, you need to have that process built out. You should have your tasks clearly defined and built out. Here's what we do. Number one, we have a written guide in Google Docs, aka standard operating procedures. That's complete with screenshots, step-by-step tutorials, and logins if necessary, right? Because it's always a pain in the ass when people are like, hey, what's your login to this? And you go back and forth. It's not working. Put it all in that document and share it with them. Number two, this is what we use a lot of is screencast videos. We have a private YouTube channel that we use. We just passed a link. We put them as unlisted. And it literally just shows them over the shoulder, step by step, what you need to do, how to do a blog post, how to create external links. Plus, when they have the written guide, they can just follow along with both of them. And the communication is done. Once that's done, you just pass to them. And then finally, we have a checklist in Google Sheets. So everything that we do is itemized so we can track progress and the status. So for example, if we're doing keyword research has 20 steps. Each of those 20 steps is itemized and they can mark it as completed. Like, I don't know, found keywords for keyword bucket 1, completed. Mapped keywords to product pages, completed. All that stuff is done. And then what we have in the next cell is the link to the YouTube video so they can watch exactly how to do it. So again, we're giving this to them as a step-by-step process, a checklist that we can then follow along and make sure it's all completed. And they have no excuses to do it wrong because there's a walkthrough video that's attached to every single line item and task. So we also want to focus on micro processes. It's really difficult to train someone to manage your Instagram account, again, or build a website by just saying, hey, we need someone to manage our Instagram account, go do it. What you want to do is you want to build this thing out so it's so simple that a third grader could follow it. So remove all thinking and decision making. That's your job. As I mentioned, your job is to think and strategize and plan. Their job is to do. Their job is to execute. So build it out for them. Remove all thinking and decision making and just have them be doers. That's it. Think about your process like you're building it for a machine. Is it simple? Is it scalable? Think about it if you're building a McDonald's cheeseburger, right? First comes the bun, then comes the patty, then comes the lettuce, then comes the tomatoes, then comes the pickles. Whatever it may be, it should be step by step and scalable to the point where anyone can follow it. Give them images, filters, and copy and hashtags. And you can outsource all of this as well too. So let's talk about quickly how we've offshored our entire e-commerce store. Laces out. The entire thing runs offshore. It's crazy. So it runs on autopilot. We have an e-commerce store that sells shoelaces if you didn't know. It's all handled by a single VA, virtual assistant in Pakistan. We pay him $3 an hour, and he does social media management. He does research for content. He builds the content. He posts the content, and he builds product pages and does all the SEO optimization for it. And this is pretty advanced stuff that he's doing, and it's all being controlled via one Google document and a bunch of different YouTube videos. So let me just run you through how he generates content for our social media page. So the first thing that he does is he goes to the top sneaker news websites and grabs headlines about sneaker releases. So here you can see one about Nike Flyknit Racer. So before I get into this real quick, it's important to note that I built a strategy for this based on a lot of research. This wasn't just like, hey, just go do this. We found that a lot of people go kind of batshit crazy over sneaker releases, and there's a ton of search volume. So we wanted to take advantage of that and automate that by putting that on our Facebook and Instagram and then on our blog as well. So this is the process that we use to do that. So he goes and he rips those images from those top websites, and then he goes to Facebook and he uploads them directly to the page to make them into a slideshow video. So now what we have is we have images, we have the headline, and he schedules these to go live as a video, which creates it into unique content. So we're technically not stealing content, it's more syndication, and we're creating a unique medium based off of that. After that, he then takes that video and he uploads it to Instagram, and he schedules it out using a platform called Schedugram every 2 days to go live there. After that, we've taught him how to create a blog post on WordPress based on that. So what he does is he names it based on, we gave him a standard naming convention based on SEO values. He names that, and then he goes and he embeds the Facebook video into the blog post. After he's done there, he pastes the link of where he found it into the body text, and then he opens up Photoshop and he creates a custom header for it. Again, very easy to do, just based on the sneaker title, based on the release date, based on all the different stuff, and you're welcome to check this out. After that, he then, in Google Sheets, he just quote-unquote tags our writer with a comment, and the writer goes in there and writes 50 to 100 words, as you can see here in this screenshot here, about the sneaker. Very straightforward, and when you break this down, we pay him $2 an hour, like I said. He works for 2 hours a day. That's $4 a day. The same price as this cup of coffee that I'm drinking right now from Starbucks, which actually tastes like shit. And $80 a month. So if you think about that, $80 a month to automate this entire website, the content, the social, everything. And I call this the McDonald's model. And this is actually something that's been written about quite extensively. But it's not necessarily always applied to the service-based model because it's difficult to understand how you can use people like software, as bad as that sounds. But it's really the world that we live in, and it's a great opportunity for you. So you can deliver high-quality work with low-cost inputs because you're taking the same process that you would follow. Think about it this way. You would follow the exact same process to build this content on your page, right? So why would you do it if somebody else can do it for $2 a day? Because when you understand the value of your time, which is one of the most important things that you can do as a business owner, and especially as a service-based business owner, is understanding, okay, I could be spending my time doing this, or I could be spending my time doing X, Y, and Z, right? You have to understand the value of your time and the outputs of the inputs of your efforts to where you should be. So social media is an important aspect of this business. Automating allowed, like I just said, to focus on bigger and more important items. So now let's talk about Weber's, our agency, because this is a little bit more sensitive. This is, we're not selling $6 shoelaces here. We're selling $6,000 monthly retainers. So let's break this down how we do this. So sometimes our processes are pretty complex, and we use multiple offshore people at one time. So we also automate all of our social media. I don't have time to post to it. I'm not going to pay an American to post to it because, again, I'm not going to pay somebody $40,000 a year for something that doesn't drive $40,000 in revenue. So, but again, it's very important to be on social media and be active and have a presence, more of a branding initiative than anything else. So what I did is I spent a lot of time building a Google Sheets content calendar for social media. And what you can see here is in column B, you can see the date, you can see the post time, and you can see the type. So what I did was I built out how I want the content, how and when I want what type of content to go live. And then after that, this person the file gets passed to our graphic designer who's in Pakistan, who creates all these custom little images. So if you've seen our stuff before, you see the little robot, go to our Facebook page, go to our blog, look at all those custom graphics. He did all of that, custom graphics for $1 a piece. So over 100 of them, we paid him about $100 for 100 pieces of custom graphics. And then after that, it goes to the Philippines to write the copy for each of these, which again is about 50 cents per post. So after these are completed, then it goes back to our agency assistant, who also does our laces out, who schedules the post via Facebook, Buffer, and Hootsuite. So everything is pushed out, and our entire account for 6 to 8 months at a time is scheduled out to go live. And I strongly advise you to look at our Facebook page because we have a very active page. My Twitter account too. It's facebook.com/hello-Webris. Just search for Webris. You'll find our pages. I strongly advise you to look at it so you can see the quality of the work too. But basically, if I was to sit here, or somebody in my agency was to sit here locally and post all this stuff, they got to create the image. They've got to pick the right time. They've got to write the copy. They've got to think all this crap through. But instead, it took 2 hours of my time to build the schedule, dictate what I want, make a video to show them how to get the content and what I want, and that was done. And then 8 months of our content is done and automated, and I can focus on bigger and better things like promoting those posts and doing stuff like this to actually drive more views. So another thing that we do a lot of is blogger outreach and PR, and this is pretty much all extensively done in the Philippines. So basically our team locally here comes up with a pitch or value proposition. So let's take this for example. So let's say we want for Laces Out, we wanted to get on sneakernews.com. Our team here locally in Miami comes up with a strategy, comes up with the content topics, the pitches, the value, what it is that we're trying to get on the website. And then after that, what we do is our team in the Philippines manually goes through Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and Google to find bloggers and journalists. And then they just record them into a Google Sheets file along with their contact info. So it's got their name, it's got their email, it's got the website that they write for, and sometimes it's got like their Twitter profile or LinkedIn as well too that we'll cite. And then after that, our agency assistant, the same guy who goes to Laces Out and posts those stuff, he just goes through one by one and sends them a canned response pitch. We also use Pitchbox. Big shout out to that tool. It's the biggest, by far the best outreach automation tool in the game. If you're doing outreach at scale, I advise you to check it out. But for the purpose of this presentation, you can just use canned responses in Gmail because you're literally just sending the same thing over. You're just spinning through the name, potentially the site that they rank for. So that's how we offshore that. If you go to a big agency and try to get them to do PR, they're going to charge you at least 10 grand to get on websites like this. We do it for like 20 bucks a month. It's just stupid cheap, and it's really effective too. Again, all these very complex processes can be boiled down into step-by-step, very dumbed down, hey, this is what we're pitching, these are the sites we need to get, go find them, record them, and then, hey, just send them an email with this. It's very, very easy to do. And then responses are managed locally here in Miami. So all of this process, you can see all of the doing, all the thinking is done in Miami, and then all the doing is pushed off where our team then in Miami, while the other people are doing, can focus on doing this at scale. So now we can't just do this for one site. We can do it for 100 sites because our time here locally is not spent combing the internet doing like $2 activities, right? So now let's talk about advanced SEO because I get asked about this a lot. So this is a checklist of items that we review for analytics audits. We do very, very, very in-depth analytics audits on Google Search Console, Google Analytics, or whatever platform they're using, and then Google Tag Manager as well. And what happens is I spent a lot of time building out this checklist. It's basically just a pass-fail checklist of everything that I need to check in order to verify that their analytics is working properly. After I built this out, again, all I had to do was run through a video to show someone how to use it, and then I just hired somebody who knows Google Analytics, and now he runs all of this for us. So our technical specialist is based out of Belarus. He goes through each item and builds out the file as pass-fail. We're able to deliver affordable advanced work that other agencies charge tens of thousands for. I know because, again, I work for the biggest digital agency in the world as a contractor, and they didn't even come close to sniffing our ass when it comes to doing this type of work. We blow them out of the water. And if they were to do this for you, they would charge you tens of thousands of dollars. And the beautiful part about this is that I pay my guy $8. And if we have a client who's not paying us for this type of service, I'm able to offer it to them and say, hey, look it, you really need help with your analytics because I like you as a client. I'm willing to do it for free just to get your trust. So it's going to cost me $22 to do this, but the value and the perceived value that I can pass on to clients, it's outstanding, right? So there's countless free platforms to find talent: Upwork, freelancer.com, Facebook groups. We exclusively use Upwork because we even have a hiring process on Upwork, and it goes something like this. We got a process for everything. So when hiring, I say be obnoxiously clear in what you need. So this is just a job posting that we use for one of our outreach people. So make sure to include specific requirements in your posting. Again, you can even just build templates for this if you're hiring these people quite a bit. And then ask additional questions for them to answer specifically. So this job requires some sort of communication skills. So we like to ask them things that they can't just Google. Like, we don't want to know, like, how tall is the Empire State Building? What's your favorite thing to do on the weekends? What projects have you worked on in the past? Blah, blah, blah. We want them to actually go through and show us that they care and take the time to answer these things, because we take our, even though we're paying them what they want, which only might be a couple of bucks, we still think that this is a really good opportunity because this is a full-time gig to work for a growing company in the United States. So after that, we like to have a test or a demo environment ready for them. So for web development, this is an example. It's just a screenshot of a PSD that we give people. We say, hey, here's a Photoshop document. Go lay some code to it, get it live on the web, and send it back to us. Make sure it's mobile responsive. So this is all handled via just automatic email messages that we send. So all that we do, again, is that when we hire somebody off Upwork, we have a Google Docs that has the job posting, and then it has the message that we send to people after we review some of the people that we like. So for example, you post a job on Upwork, you get 50 applicants, you just scan through, see the people that you like, have good ratings, and then also have the range for what you want to pay, whether that's $5 or $50, whatever that may be. From there, we just send them a copy and paste message that says, hey, here's a link to a Google document. It's got a step-by-step checklist of what we need done. Go do it. So again, if it's outreach, if it's web research, whatever that may be, we'll actually hire them and pay them for that little test. And then if they do well, then we'll hire them full time. So we generally hire between like 5 to 8 people every time that we post something up there, because what we want to do is we want to pit them against each other, right? We want to compete them against each other, and we let them know that, hey, we're interviewing a lot of people. Here's the process. We just want somebody who can do this and do it right and not ask us questions. We don't want to communicate. We want you to be able to take this and go work in your own time. If you need us, here's how to reach us, but please don't, because we want somebody who's autonomous, who's a self-starter, that can follow a process and who wants to wake up every day and do the same thing. If that's not you, this job is not for you, and it doesn't matter, because there's 18 other people right now that are applying for this job who it is. So we're very straightforward to the point of, like I said, being obnoxious. And we like to do a lot of tests because the cream always rises, right? The best is of the best is always going to show up. They're going to perform better, and we hire those people. And it's really that simple. But after we hire them, the process isn't done. You want to go through and really, really critique their work. Make sure that you have somebody who's reviewing everything. Again, I know it's a pain in the ass, but this goes a long way in the long run, because, you know, we have people now that have been working for me for 2.5, 3 years almost, that I don't even talk to. I just pay them a check. They get the work done. They log into a spreadsheet. They see what they need to do, and they get it done. So that came because I hired them and I trained them very, very thoroughly. It's not just the initial process. It's after they do it. It's going through and it's troubleshooting their work, correcting them, and making sure that they're doing it right. So build a long-term schedule, like I just said, set it, forget it, and move on to the next challenge. So this is a screenshot of our infamous project management tracker. You can see here, this is tracking pretty much everything in our agency. And what this allows, I mean, I'm in California right now. I'm actually sitting here watching the sunset in beautiful OC. And my team is back in Miami. My team is all over the place. But we're all working out of the same file, and everybody knows what they need to do when it needs to be done, because it's built out here. Even my offshore people, they just log in here, they see what they need. And then you can see in the notes section, it's got a link here to a document that's going to have the step-by-step process, the checklist, and the video. So they can just work on their own time, get it done when they need to, and then mark it completed. And it's just a very beautiful process that flows seamlessly. It allows us, not only my offshore team, but my local team, to work from home, to take vacation, to do whatever they want, and they can just easily check in here. So again, this isn't just about offshoring. This is about building a business and managing people. Give them a process, give them training, and then give them an organizational structure for them to work and log in and work together as a team without ever having to talk to each other. Because honestly, communication is overrated. It's I think that meetings are the most overused thing in the world. Meetings are for decisions. They're not for working. People need time to do work, and a business runs based on execution, not based on thought and theory and talking. You need to get it done. You need to find a way to let people work on their own time, when they want to do, when they're happy, and when they're most productive. And this system, I'm not Elon Musk over here, but this system has worked for us. It's why we're going to do well over $1 million this year in our 1.5 years of operations. And it's why the people that work for me are the happiest, because they actually want to work here, and they don't have to talk to me. They don't have to hear me, right? We all work as a team, but we all work in our own silos. And this is not a job for them, right? It's something that they can do on their own time. Spend time with their family, go on vacation, take trips, work from Europe, from the beach, whatever they want to do, and they're happy. And honestly, my employees' happiness, whether it's home or in Pakistan, it means the whole world to me. And it's really what helps this business go and grow. So that's all I got. I've got off on a little tangent there. Please check me out on Instagram. Follow us on YouTube here, on Twitter, and then on Facebook as well. And I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great weekend, y'all.